That first bikini wax fear is so real. I thought I would walk out traumatized, but European Wax Center had me feeling like a glowing goddess ready for hot girl summer, especially thanks to their Comfort Wax, which is designed to make waxing more comfortable. Also, it didn't just remove my hair, European Wax Center made my skin so much smoother and softer. And your first wax is completely free, which means absolutely no pressure. If you needed a sign to book that wax before your next vacation or the beginning of summer, this is it. With over 1,000 locations, there is one near you. Head to waxcenter.com to book your first wax free.
Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What
hard?
should I wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a formal?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying
not
that first
good.
home so
What do I want my
frustrating?
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, the Every Girl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Every Girl podcast.
What would it feel like to walk away from the life everyone expected of you and finally step into the one that's actually yours? Today's guest not only rewrote her story multiple times, but will help you do it too. Today, I'm joined by the one, the only Julia Haart. I get to talk to a lot of amazing women, right? But Julia has one of the most amazing and inspiring stories you will ever hear. You're familiar with Julia's story if you read her memoir or you watched her and her family on My Unorthodox Life on Netflix. By the way, if you slept on the show, you are missing out. It honestly is one of my favorite reality shows, and if you know me, that is saying a lot. If you're not familiar with Julia Haart, let me set the scene. She was born into an ultra-Orthodox Jewish community where women had virtually no freedom. Married at 19 and a mother of 4, Julia spent decades trying to conform. Until at age 42, she did the unthinkable. She left behind the only world she'd ever known in search of autonomy, authenticity, and a life that felt like her own. What makes Julia's story so extraordinary isn't just the courage it took to walk away, it's everything she built after. She didn't just start over, she fucking soared. She became creative director of La Perla, went on to lead one of the world's biggest modeling agencies as the CEO of Elite World Group, and she shared her journey with millions through her Netflix show, My Unorthodox Life. And just when you think the reinvention stops there, nope. Julia has faced a very public, very brutal divorce and legal battle, which she opens up about in this episode, including the jaw-dropping extent of her ex-husband's betrayal. That's kind of like the only word I can think to encapsulate the shit show. Seriously, watch the show for the full drama. But here's the point of Julia's story and what I really want you to take from this episode. Julia Haart is living proof that it is never too late to transform your life. That no matter your past, how stuck you feel, your age, you can start over and create something bigger and bolder and more beautiful than you ever imagined possible. In this episode, Julie shares her incredible story and gives you an exact blueprint on how you can transform your life too. This episode is emotional, vulnerable, incredibly honest, and beyond inspirational. I did want to provide a trigger warning that Julia very briefly mentions suicide, so take care of you if that could be triggering. I fell in love with Julia and her story. I know you will too. You will leave this episode feeling like if Julia can transform her life, I can too. Welcome, Julia Haart, to the Every Girl podcast. Julia, I am so excited to talk to you. I have literally wanted to interview you for years because I was blown away at your story after watching My Unorthodox Life. So this is like a dream come true for me. So thank you for joining
Thank you.
me.
So happy to be here. Really am.
I know a lot of people are familiar with your story from watching the show, but I want to go back even further. What was your personality like as a child, and what do you remember most about that phase of your life?
First of all, my nickname when I was a kid was Blincy. You know what a blince is?
No, like the food?
Yes.
Oh, I
The
love
brown,
those.
because I
And
was a
like
big
little
tub.
crepe.
I was a little blince. My rolls of fat had rolls of fat. If you look at me, I was this, and there's a picture of me with two pigtails, hands on hips. So I've pretty much been me since I was a baby. Like, my parents called me Yulia because a Yulia was a spinning top. And I actually started dancing before I started crawling. I skipped the crawling part. I went from not walking to dancing around the house. So I've been this like free spirit kind of person, I think, since I was born, and stubborn as F.
So no one who knew you back then would be surprised to know all
Nobody
that
who
you've
knew me
become.
back then. I don't think anyone who knows me would be surprised, to be honest.
Do you remember being really driven? Did you have an idea of success and what you wanted as a child?
I wasn't allowed to. To me, to be driven in my community means driven to get a good match and a happy marriage. That was it. My goals were the same goals of an 18th century woman, to have a good match and a good husband who will become a great scholar so that I can go to heaven. Pretty much it. Those were my aspirations. And all the other things, the fact that I started drawing clothing and taught myself how to draw when I was 5. I drew my first handbag when I was 5 years old.
Wow.
And throughout my life, even though fashion's not a thing in my community because clothes are meant to cover and conceal, they're not meant to attract attention or be individual. So my whole life I was drawing and designing literally under the table. Every drawer that I thought my husband wouldn't look into, like my underwear drawer or like diapers or things that he never touched, or drawers in the kitchen, places that men in my world do not go. There was thousands of drawings on tissues, on napkins, on papers, like it was crazy. But those were dreams, not aspirations, because in my world, none of that was possible.
There was no thought, "Oh, I could pursue this." It was just like, "Oh, this is a fun hobby
Let
to
me ask you a
have."
question. Imagine for a second that your dream is to have a farm on Mars. That's how me dreaming of having a career in fashion would have felt like. Absurd. I don't know if a monkey all of a sudden starts a jazz band. It just was not in the realm of human norm. It was not possible.
Which makes it really amazing that you did have this, like, innate passion that didn't come from anything, it came from within you.
Yeah, I had this need, this fire that was driving me crazy. Like, and I know this is not really appropriate, but I can't think of it better. Do you know when you really have to go to the bathroom? You just gotta go, and it's sitting inside of you, and it hurts like a. That's what it felt like in my brain. All
Wow.
of this that had to come out, and it was stuck in there.
No, that makes so much sense. You had something that needed to come out. Yeah, that was just, like, dying to come out. So for people who are less familiar with your story, can you talk about your childhood, like, getting to the US? Like, what was that experience of your childhood like?
Pretty awful. People always ask me, like, when you do meditation or all these things, they're always like, think of a happy moment in your childhood. And I literally rack my brain and I can't find one. I don't really have any happy memories of my childhood, to be honest. It was pretty bad. I grew up in a very ultra-Orthodox, extremist Jewish community. I was changing diapers by the time I was 10 years old. I had no access to the outside world, no television, no radio, no newspapers, no books, no magazines, no movies. I was brought up to be subservient and silent and obedient. My purpose in life was to be the mat or the doorstep or the stairs by which a man could climb to greatness. And women only exist in relation to men. To be a good woman, you had to serve a man. To be a bad woman, you had to attract men's attention. Every woman is supposed to be doing the exact same thing. You are defined by your biology. If you are born a woman, that means you're supposed to have babies, be obedient to your husband until the day you can't have babies, and then you have grandbabies. And that's your life. Your life is prescribed from the second you're born because as a woman, all women are the same. We're basically feeding machines and birthing machines and cleaning machines, and that's pretty much it. My entire life, what I got most in trouble for was not even reading secular literature, because I did that on the side. Reading religious literature that governed my life, but that women weren't allowed to read because nashim daitan kalos, which means a woman's mind is light. She's not capable of grasping deep and esoteric subjects. So leave that to the men. You do your cooking, and you're going to be loved by God.
Wow. So you couldn't even it wasn't even just about exposure to the outside world. It was exposure to the world that men had
Within me.
access to.
Meaning I had
Wow.
a library of books I wasn't allowed to open. I read all of them anyway. And the Gemara, the Talmud, which was written in Aramaic, guess what? Boys are taught Aramaic, women are not. And the Talmud is basically the book that governs every aspect of your life. So the idea was men will study, they'll explain it to you, and you just follow blindly because you really can't grasp, you shouldn't be learning this stuff. So what did I do? I taught myself Aramaic. And because I tend to remember what I read, I started arguing with rabbis who were misquoting things. And that got me into so much trouble. It was like, seriously, I was at a dinner, Friday night dinners, Shabbat, right? That's like the holy day. So you're supposed to say a little sermon. The rabbi, of course, not women. Women don't talk. The rabbi's supposed to, or your husband, or whoever's the man of the house, is supposed to say a sermon to elevate the meal and make it holy. We were at this dinner with this very famous rabbi, and he had like probably 20 disciples with him, whatever. He started giving a Dvar Torah. And his whole Dvar Torah was based on a quote from this Jewish philosopher called Maharal. Very famous Jewish philosopher, I think in the 1400s, maybe 1500s. But regardless, I wasn't supposed to have read the Maharal, right? And this rabbi was basing his sermon at this dinner table on Friday night, a Shabbat dinner, on the Maharal, except he misquoted him. And so his whole sermon was based on a fallacy. And I'm sitting, I'm like, do I say something? Do I not say something? I mean, on one hand, truth is truth, and his whole sermon is flawed. On the other hand, I'm a woman, so like, I'm not supposed to have read the Maharal. But I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. So very politely, with my eyes looking down and my hands like this, I said, Rabbi, I'm so sorry. I think you may have misquoted the Maharal. And it wasn't shocked silence at the table when I spoke. It was laughter. The entire table, him and his all disciples, burst out laughing. A woman telling a rabbi that he misquote. It was like literally I felt like a performing monkey. Like it was absurd to them, nonsensical, that a woman could say to a rabbi, you misquoted something that she wasn't allowed to read, or obviously her intellect wasn't enough to understand in the first place. So I have a table full of people literally laughing at me. And while everybody's laughing at me, I get up, I go to the bookshelf, I open the Maharal, and sure enough, he was wrong and I was right. And I walk over and I put it on the Shabbat table, and I don't say anything, and I just point. And at this point, all I wanted to hear was, my goodness, you can learn from anybody, even a woman. That's all I wanted. Instead, what I got was the Maharal would turn over in his grave to be quoted by a woman.
Wow.
So that gives you kind of a general picture of my life.
If you were educating yourself and reading and doing those things you were not supposed to do, what is the danger of that? Is it just kind of being ostracized by the community, like being laughed at, being looked down on?
The secular stuff I'm not even going to talk about because no one knew about that, right? I'm just going to talk about the stuff that I did that I got in trouble for. So basically, have you ever seen Bridgerton?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. It's all about the match.
Right.
Everything is about the match. The family has to be this way so that their children could get good matches, because that's all that matters in my world. It's the 1800s. It's Bridgerton minus the fabulous clothes and the fancy balls. Way less fun. But that concept, if you misbehave, right, your children aren't going to get into the right schools, you're not going to get the right match, you're going to be ostracized in your synagogue. It's all, there's no corporal punishment. No one's hitting you or beating you. That's not happening. You're just going to be denigrated publicly constantly.
That's probably the worst case for people
But
in
also,
that
it's
community.
ruining your children, right? It's a very
Yes.
clever system because it's not harming you, it's harming your kids. Your kids aren't going to get the match because your mother is this evil woman who reads.
And probably earlier on that it would harm your parents, it would harm your extended family.
Well, I'll give you an example. In fifth grade, students there are taught that if you do not cover your entire body, right? Because my entire life I was covered head to toe. The only parts of my body that were not uncovered were my hands and my face. That's it. From collarbone down, you're supposed to be covered. Below your elbow, 4 inches below your knee, that's pretty much your whole body. So the only part of you that's uncovered is here and here. My entire life, I was literally covered, head to toe. That's the world I lived in. And of course, I tried to make it as fashionable as humanly possible. So you're supposed to be covered head to toe. If you uncover above your elbow, below your collarbone, not only will you go to hell, but your mother will go to hell. because she didn't teach you properly. And there's a very specific kind of hell. Now imagine this is a fifth grader hearing this from people
Oh,
they respect and believe in and admire, their teachers, their parents. The hell is that every day for eternity, your mother will dip your clothes in acid and she'll have to dress you in the acid soaked clothes. You're taught
oh
that
my
in fifth
God.
grade.
When you're 10 years old.
Yeah. When I wore pants for the first time, after I left the community, I'd been gone for close to a year before I put on a pair of pants. I called my kids to say goodbye. I was 100% sure I was going to die. I literally was. I was sure when I walked out of that room in pants into the outside that I was going to get killed, that a car would hit me or someone would stab me, something would happen and I wouldn't make it. And I literally called each one of my children. I didn't tell them what I was doing. I just said, guys, if anything ever happens to me, know that I love you, that I'm with you forever. And I just decided that if I was going to die, I was going to fucking do it in a pair of pants.
That's a good
They were
reason to do it.
my first pair of pants were the black leather skin tight Saint Laurent
Uh,
leggings. So if I was gonna go, I was gonna go on my own terms in my black leather leggings. But
listen,
that's
those would be
how
worth
real
it.
it
Yeah.
felt. That's how real
Wow.
it felt. As a 40-year-old woman, I was terrified of wearing pants. Terrified. The first time I put on a pair of pants and walked around at anywhere public was the most frightening and brave thing I've ever done in my life. I was sweating bullets, shaking like a crazy person. I was so convinced I was going to die, but at least I was going to go on my own terms. That's what they do to you.
So when you made the decision, even if this kills me, I'm going to go out and wear pants, was it because you were so exhausted by the
Yeah,
rules
I
that you were
just
ready to
had
fuck all
enough.
of
I was
it?
like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. I'm miserable. This is not what I believe in. I'm going to do what I think is right. At least I tried. At least
At
I
least you
fought for
tried.
my freedom, you know?
And in Saint Laurent leggings. Yep.
And then, yeah, and obviously. It was so crazy because basically what happened was I was in Milan. I'd already started my company. I already was creating shoes, but I was still too scared to put on a pair of pants. This is 2013. I'm walking down the street in Milan, and there's this gorgeous blonde woman walking down the street in the sexiest pair of pants I have ever seen in my life. And so I literally run after her. I stop her on the street. I'm like, hi, I know this is crazy, but I'm obsessed with your pants. Where did you get your pants? And she was very kind to me. They're Saint Laurent leggings. Literally 5 minutes later, I walk into a Saint Laurent store and I ask to try on these leggings. And I go into the dressing room and I put them on and I feel so strong, so fierce, so free. I'm like, ah. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm buying them. So I go, excuse my language. You don't mind my language, do
Oh,
you?
no, please go off.
Okay. So I go to the counter and my hands are literally shaking when I'm buying them, like actually shaking. So much so that the Italian person thought it was because it was so expensive. And so she literally is like, don't worry, they'll last for years. I know it's a big purchase. And I think to myself, honey, my hands are shaking because I've never worn a pair of pants. So anyway, so I take these pants to the hotel. And for 3 days, I'm too scared to put them on. I look at my pants look at me, we have conversations, but I'm too scared shitless to wear them. And then after 3 days of my pants and I communing, I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Put them on and literally call all my children and tell them I love them because I am pretty convinced that I ain't coming back. Walk out that door was the most scary thing I've ever done. It was scarier than leaving the community. It was scarier than starting a brand. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. And when I walked back in and I was still alive, I came to my room and I, like a little 5-year-old kid, I jumped up and down in my bed and screamed like, wee, I'm free, like that, because I hadn't died. And that's when everything just, all that past, just, I realized that
Mm.
so much of what I'd been told was a pure lie. And that I wasn't going to let that hold me back ever again.
That was the turning point where you're like, oh, everything I've learned is actually not real.
Yeah.
Wow, what a powerful moment.
I still have the pair of pants.
Do you? I was
I
actually going to
do.
ask you that. Do you still wear them?
Absolutely. I do.
I feel like we need to
Whenever
see
I need
them.
an extra shot of confidence, those are my pants.
And it's funny that blonde woman obviously had no idea that she was about to
Yeah.
change your life. It's such a good example of how scared you are in that community because that's how they keep you in that cycle is they have to make you think if you question it, if you
Punishment,
educate
evil
yourself.
punishment,
Yeah, the consequences are so terrifying,
dire. Yeah.
dire that nobody wants to go outside of it. So when you were in the community, knowing how scary it is to even question the community you're in, when did that start unraveling for you? When do you remember first feeling like, okay, I think I need to get out?
Is basically my daughter Miriam. So my entire life, I had this massive difficulty between who I am and who I was supposed to be loved by God. And I wanted to be loved by God. Who doesn't want to be loved by God? I kept on being told that I'm stupider than men, but I kept on looking at the men around me and thinking, I don't think so. I don't know. I kind of can outquote them. I just keep my mouth shut half the time, but not really. I don't think they're just smarter than I am, and I don't think their intellect is any way better. But they had convinced me that I was somehow flawed, that I wasn't okay with the system. If I tell you how many times I was told, why can't you just behave? Behave. What does behave mean? Behave means shut up, stop reading things, and stop questioning things. It's not like I was a wild child. My sins were reading and educating myself. Those were my big sins. But they convinced me that I was somehow flawed. They would say, this friend of yours doesn't do that. This friend, they're all happy. Why can't you just be a housewife? Be a housewife. Leave the difficult things to the men. They had convinced me that something was wrong with me, that I couldn't be okay with this. And then my daughter, when she was really little, 7 or 8 years old, she decides she wants to play soccer. She asks my husband, and my husband tells her no, because you're only allowed to wear skirts. So he says to her, look, since you can only wear a skirt, if you're playing soccer in an open field and you kick the ball and your skirt goes up, a man walking by the field may see your knees and have inappropriate thoughts about you, and therefore you can't play soccer. So let's not talk about what kind of man gets turned on by an 8-year-old's knees. Let's just leave that alone for a second. My little 7 or 8-year-old looks at my husband and says, okay, so if I'm responsible for his sins, is he responsible for mine?
Oh,
And when I heard that pure, unassailable logic from a 7-year-old, they could not convince me that she was flawed. And that day is the day I decided to leave.
so it was to get your children different exposure,
Out.
new life, out.
They are the beginning and end of my Exodus story. Without them, I would never, ever have left, ever.
I can only imagine how much courage it took because you are rewiring every belief pretty much you've ever had from the time you were
You can't
born.
imagine how many times I've had to break myself into pieces and put myself back together.
How did you rewrite and get rid of some of those internal beliefs that were holding you back?
Well, it's an interesting question because until my divorce, I thought I had eradicated them from my mind. Because I was so fierce in business and I was so successful and I was just really good at making money. Like, who knew? So I thought all that is behind me until my marriage was very, very bad. And my daughter Miriam told me, of course, after I filed for divorce, they were too scared to say anything beforehand because they didn't want to hurt me or anything. My daughter told me, Ema, your voice changed to a little girl whenever you spoke to him.
Oh my
And I
God.
hadn't even realized. I was so used to the man being the boss in a relationship that I was still subservient to him. And I didn't even realize. And when the proverbial shit hit the fan in my life and I realized I'd been cheated and that he lied to me about my shares and all this stuff that I believed, and you know what happened. It took me 3 years to get my company back. Yes. Anyway, but when that happened, I realized that even though I had left Muncie, I had not left Muncie. And that took me on a completely new road, which was the road of Dr. Joe Dispenza and meditation and understanding that it's you and your emotions and your thoughts. You can control them and they are what create your life and not vice versa. I again broke myself into little pieces. The last 3 years have been the hardest of my life, harder even than leaving my community. Because when I left my community, I knew no one, I'd accomplished nothing, and just being alive was like, well, damn, I made it. When I got my company stolen from me and my reputation eviscerated, and there was over 200 articles calling me a thief, a con artist, a liar, a seductress. I mean, crazy stuff. And of course, Guess how much proof of this in 3 years they've come up with?
0.
Zero. Zero. It never happened. It was a fabrication from start to finish. Not a single press outlet said, we'd like to see some proof. They just wrote it. And it took me 3 years. Now, of course, there's arrest warrants out against my soon-to-be ex. I not only won my 50%, I won control over his 50%, plus a bunch of
Yes.
money and so forth and so on. But it took 3 years. And to get through those 3 years, it almost killed me. I'm going to be honest. If it wasn't for Dr. Joe and meditation, I would not have made it through. But what it made me realize is that I'm not a victim. I can control my life. And that all of those feelings of shame and insecurity and being lesser than men and all of those subservient, polite, all of that was still inside of me, that if I could get rid of that, if I could change the ideas I had and the ways that I was raised to feel, that by changing my insides, I would change my outsides. And literally from the day that I started, everything in my life got better. And since that moment, I started reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, January 2023, in Bakhmut, in Ukraine, in the front lines with my cell phone as a light, because I had gone to Ukraine to the front lines to deliver ambulances and IFAX kits and a bunch of medical supplies. And I was literally sleeping in the officers' barracks in Bakhmut in winter, in January, when it was literally the war zone. And I narrowly missed getting blown up twice. And the second time was so intense because the people who had been talking to me 5 seconds ago just got blown up. And I was there in the barracks, and I had gone with this Doctor Without Borders guy, and he was so calm. I'm like, dude, you were not even a foot away from getting killed. Like, how are you so calm? And he hands me Dr. Joe's book. So the first time I came across his version of meditation, which really I hate using the word meditation because it's not, meditation is a tool, but the real thing is self-mastery. Training your body to think new ways, training your body to feel new things, changing the stories you tell yourself, getting out of your own way, getting rid of all those limiting ideas and philosophies that are so ingrained in you that you don't even know they exist. And when I came home from that trip, the first whistleblower came forward. And then it's just been win after win after win after win. But I had to break myself. I spend today, right now, I spend 2 to 3 hours every day meditating.
Wow, 2 to 3 hours a day?
I don't sleep, so it's around 4 in the morning is generally when I meditate. But I spend between 2 to 4 hours a day meditating.
And what does that look like? I mean, I know that Dr. Joe Dispenza has so many amazing resources, but for you, how do you apply it?
I love Dr. Joe because it's science, it's mathematics, it's data, it's quantifiable. When I don't understand something, I send a question and I get 14 peer-reviewed medical journal articles explaining it to me. It's a lot about using your cerebrospinal fluid to hit your pineal gland and shake the little crystals that are in there to basically change your chemistry, your biochemistry. It changes your gut biome. That's what I'm saying. It's not really meditation. We need to think of a word. It's like quantum living. It's basically recognizing that the energy you put out is what creates your reality. And it's about connecting to consciousness and to the quantum field and learning how powerful you are. All religions have a lot of beautiful things in them, right? There's charity, there's loving kindness, there's living for something outside of yourself. You're not supposed to hate, you're not supposed to feel jealous, all of these beautiful concepts that we've been taught. However, religion also tells you and teaches you to have fear, to have guilt, to have shame, that this is the way you serve God. Heaven and hell, reward and punishment. But the world we live in is not a reward and punishment system. It's an attraction system. What you put out, literally, electronically, now provably, scientifically, like there's UCLA and UCSD, Harvard, MIT, they're all doing this now because it's not pseudoscience anymore. There's just so much evidence. There are studies on women who have cancer and they can read the energy patterns that are coming out of their bodies. And they did this whole study on women with uterine cancer, and all of them had the same pattern of energy around them. Identical. What that taught was that it wasn't the cancer creating the energy, it was the energy creating the cancer. So change the energy, change what happens. And that's what Dr. Joe teaches you to do. Change the vibration, the frequency of your life. And it is so difficult because it's not about meditation. It's about undoing every subconscious belief that you've had. And imagine if you've had these beliefs for 54 years. Do you know what it's like to undo 54 years of beliefs?
No, I don't even know what it's
It's
like to 30 years of beliefs. I can't even imagine for
it's
you.
and the kind of beliefs that I was indoctrinated in and
Right.
how I was indoctrinated into them. It has been the most difficult thing I have ever done in my life. Literally, I had to break myself down. I broke myself up, literally crunched me into a bunch of pieces, and then figured out a way to put myself back together. My kids are now massive Dr. Joe followers, not because I ever spoke to them about it, but because my kids came to me like a year ago and they're like, okay, what drugs are you on? Literally, they thought I was on medication. They're like, we've never seen you so happy. You're always smiling. All this shit is going on around you, and you're like, calm, relaxed. Oh, yes, I'm going to win. No big deal. Like, who are you? What are you taking? They were 100% sure I was on something. And it's really funny because, like, I have a hard time with Motrin. Okay. I'm the size of a 12-year-old. So, like, that's why they wanted to know because, like, I don't take medication. So, like, come on, you have to be on something. And then I said, no, I'm actually doing this Dr. Joe thing. And so they started doing the meditations because they saw the change in me. I have people all the time telling me, my gosh, I don't recognize you. And it's really true. I am really a different person. Like things that would upset me before, don't care. I have this internal, I don't know how to say it, this internal peace and this true confidence that I'm not just floating along some life that I have no control over, but that I am the creator of my life. And that is such an empowering, beautiful, incredible feeling. If you actually believe that, you feel so strong. So, looking back at everything that's happened, of course, yes. The fact that I've won so much more than I thought, I thought I mean, by the end of this divorce, hopefully it's not over yet, right? June 5th is my final divorce date. But regardless, for the first time in my life, and I'm 54 years old. Sorry. For the first time in my life, I feel like I belong somewhere. And I don't feel alone or afraid.
I have chills. That is truly one of the most empowering things I have ever heard in my life. It's funny what you just said about feeling in control for the first time is exactly what I was admiring so much about you because most of us in just this culture of the US, like this general culture, weren't even grown up in this Orthodox religion, but we felt I'm a victim. Limiting beliefs are something I talk about so much because I think it is the crux of every issue.
Everything. But by the way,
Everything.
now you can scientifically prove that.
Exactly.
There are people who
Exactly.
are growing back organs. I mean, it's crazy.
All because of what you believe. And even from a small scale, like I talk about my limiting beliefs around money, where I thought, I'm just a girl. I'm not good at money. I'm creative. Even things like that dictate your entire reality. So to
Yeah.
know someone who grew up rooted in you have no control, the belief, not even belief, but the acknowledgement, the realization that I control everything is what freed you.
I used to wake up. So I'm a fighter by nature, right? I'm a warrior.
We
I
can
mean, I
tell.
always have
Yeah.
been. I've always been a warrior. From the day that I left, for the last 11 years, now we're at 12 years. For the 11 years pre Dr. Joe, I woke up every single morning, 11 years, inside a panic attack. I would wake up with my heart going, covered in sweat. Like literally, I would wake up into a panic attack. And because I'm a warrior, whatever I was afraid of, I would go and fight. So whatever I was most afraid of is what I would do. I was afraid of starting a company, so I started a company. I was afraid of this, so I did that. So to me, my fear was my driver. Whatever I was most afraid of, that's what I attacked. So people would say to me, "You're fearless." And I would say, no, I'm fearful. It's just I use my fear to drive me. Because that's what I did. I didn't let my fear stop me. I made my fear propel me. But I lived in a constant state of fear. And now I wake up in the morning into sunshine. I wake up, I jump out of bed. I'm so excited to start my day. I can't wait to see what the universe is going to bring to me today. And it feels good to feel good.
It feels good to feel good. Yeah.
It feels good to feel good just because, even though my husband is still ignoring all court orders and we have more contempt orders and hopefully there'll be more arrests issued against him and his co-conspirators who are just ignoring all the court orders. There's a lot of crazy going on in my life, but there's so much good. And for the first time, I can step above the crazy and be like, it's all good.
I'm
I
good.
believe I'm good. Great. And it feels so empowering. It's really wonderful to know that you are not a victim.
It's also so fascinating. It almost is like you got free when you left the community. Like you're free now. And then it's so interesting hearing you talk and you're like, I wasn't fully free. Like you had this other layer of shackles that had nothing to do with a pair of pants or being able to read.
That's right.
But you're going through all these layers of freedom that not even people in this world get access to for their whole
Yeah.
life.
I mean, I could not, if I was going to give one piece of really solid advice, it would be go do the progressive online course of Dr. Joe. I swear to you on my life that it will change your life. And I think you're 100% right. We have grown up in a victim society. What if instead of honoring victims, we could help victims to not become victims
And feel empowered instead
and feel
of
empowered
victimized.
instead
Yes.
of victimized?
Did you feel that sense, like, when you left the community, even if you didn't feel victimized, people put that on you because it was like, "Oh, so sad you grew up in this culture,"
I
rather
never told
than
anybody.
Oh, you didn't tell anybody?
Never told a single human being until I became creative director of La Perla.
No way.
Because exactly for your point, I knew that if I told my story, I would be a victim. And what I wanted to do is I said to myself, I made myself a promise when I left. I'm not going to tell anyone my past until I've achieved something. I don't want to be defined by what was done to me. I want to be defined by what I have accomplished. So when I became creative director of La Perla, I was like, okay, now that I've accomplished, now I can tell my story.
You must have
Until
blown
then, not a
people's minds.
single, oh no, I mean, first, nobody believed me. I mean, it's hard to believe. It's a crazy story.
It's hard to believe, yeah.
It is hard to believe. Like, that's the thing. That's always been the difficulty for me is that it's a truth is crazier than fiction situation. That's why I think all the press believed all the lies about me 3 years ago because I have no degree. I didn't go to a fancy university. I didn't intern with anybody. I just came out of nowhere and built a successful brand. So I must be a liar. I got punished for being too extraordinary. Women aren't supposed to be extraordinary.
That is exactly what it is. It's
I
so
literally
true.
got punished for being extraordinary.
How have you not let that get you to feel like being extraordinary is unsafe?
I realized, in Judaism, there's no such thing as pure joy. At your happiest moments, you're supposed to remember something sad. At the wedding, you break the glass to remind yourself about the destruction of the temple, right? You're never supposed to be super happy. There's this concept in Judaism of Vigilu bir'ada, which means celebrate with trembling. You're always supposed to be afraid. You serve God through your fear. So to say and understand that God does not want my fear. He wants joy and happiness for all of us. That shift, that paradigm shift changes everything in your life because guess what? I stood my ground. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. I knew I was telling the truth and I knew he was lying. And that knowledge, that truth, what is it Winston Churchill says? A lie can go halfway around the world before truth has time to put its pants on,
Oh, that's so good.
right?
It's so true.
So I knew that eventually, the courts work very slowly. It took 2 years just to get to discovery, to where actual documents have to be provided. And once the documents started being provided, everything changed. And he fled the country. From what we've seen, he's taken around 80 million. Yeah,
God.
yeah. And it's going to get worse. I have a feeling there's more, but we'll see. But The truth is the truth. Someone said to me, like, why weren't you scared that they would find something? I was like, no, because I hadn't done anything. Like, I knew that I hadn't done anything. And I knew that if I made it through, if I just somehow stood the course, that eventually the truth had to come out. It had to come out. I built a $1 billion business. You can't disappear those facts. You can hide them for a little while, but you can't disappear them. And by the time I'm done, let's just see what happens.
And what you just said about joy, too, I think is a really, I hope, a huge shift for everybody listening, because I think whether it comes from religion, whether it comes from just kind of like in our culture, what we hear, we have this belief of like, I can't be too happy. Like if you are in a really
Yeah,
happy relationship, have a really happy job, you're like, where is the shoe going to drop?
yeah.
It's always this fear of we aren't supposed to be too happy.
You know why? I think because it's all religion based. This idea that you serve God by fearing God. And look, think about prayer. Prayer is saying, I can't control what happens to me. God, please help me. That's you as a victim.
Yeah.
What if that's not how you communicate with God? What if the way you're supposed to communicate with God is to show God that you have so much joy and love in your heart? What if it's by being a co creator with God? What if that's what God wants?
And what if joy is the power that gets us there?
Joy is the connector
Yeah.
because God is love. God or the universe or the source or whatever you want to call it, that is pure, unadulterated joy and love. We've made God into like a really mean teenage boy, right? If you break up with him, he punishes you, he messes with your life. Think about it. We've made God into a male who gets pissed off and then punishes everybody. If an actual human did those things, we would think they were terrible. That is
Yeah.
not God. That is not God. It is ludicrous. God
Mm.
is, when you're meditating, I can't even explain that. You got to just do it. And again, it's scientifically provable. You could see my brainwaves change. You could see the blood in my body change. Like I've taken blood tests, I've done brain scans. Like there have been actual physical changes in my body that are provable and quantifiable. And when you see that and you realize that the way to connect to the universe and to this power that's greater than all of us is through joy. Now think
Mhm.
about this. Think about all of our superheroes. They all are our superheroes because they suffer. They're really good at suffering. They're stoic. They have so much pain, and this is who we admire. We consider people who are very happy or joyful to be kind of like simple and a little bit stupid. Like, hello, don't you see what's going on outside in the world? How can you be happy? Right? We think of joy as a negative, as like someone who is joyous, they're kind of ignorant and they're clueless and naive. And we admire and adulate suffering, pain, all this stuff. We've got to stop that. If we adulated those who had an enormous capacity for love, or an enormous capacity for kindness, or an enormous capacity for joy, think of what this world would be.
Especially
Yeah.
as women, our joy has been tried every which way to be taken from us. I think because it is our power. Joy is radical. Joy is how we
Joy is
change the world.
incredible.
Mm,
Joy is how you change the world. You know what? It's really hard to do when you're joyous. It's really hard to hate. It's really hard to be cruel. It's really hard to be unkind because you're just so happy.
it's so
So much
true.
of what's going on in our lives could be so much better if we learned to find joy even in the most difficult situations. If you can feel joy on the inside, joy will come on the outside because you're emitting a different radio frequency.
Reading one of Dr. Joe's books, something that really stuck with me that I think about a lot is feeling in love with your life. Like that feeling where you're so in love with your life. And I remember a story that he talked about in his book where he had a cancer patient and he wanted her to sit in meditation every day for however long it took to feel in love with her life.
Change the vibration, change the pattern, you change the illness. It makes sense if you understand that it is your thoughts and your feelings that are creating your reality. And sometimes it takes time for the world, for this life we live in, to catch up with what we're feeling in here. But it always does. And ever since I started winning. There's so many things that I could tell you after my divorce is over. I mean, like actual, other than saying miracles is the only word I can think of. Always came after a deep shift in my thinking. Our bodies have a pharmacology inside of us. We could secrete all sorts of chemicals and literally medications for ourselves. I can't even, like, so many crazy things. Like, I had post COVID asthma. I had really bad COVID. I had OG COVID.
Oh,
Uh, April 11th, 2020.
oh
And because I've
no.
had pneumonia 12 times and I'm slightly immunodeficient, it was not good. It was bad. And then I developed long COVID because I had COVID for like 4 months. And since 2020, I had COVID developed asthma, and my entire body thought that it was still attacking COVID. So I had elevated blood count and I had elevated white blood cells. And after I started doing this, I said to myself, well, if someone can regrow a thyroid, maybe I can fix my blood. And for a full 2 weeks, every day, that's what I meditated about. And then I went to a hematologist and I had my blood tested, and he's like, no, you're fine. Gone. Gone. Zero. No elevated anything. After 4 years, gone in 2 weeks.
Oh my God, in
Because I
two
literally took
weeks.
blood tests before, because my regular doctor was like, Julia, you got to go see a hematologist. It's been so many years. I'm really worried about this. This is not healthy for you. You got to go see someone. So between the blood test with my doctor and my visit to the hematologist was 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, I healed my own blood.
Whoa.
I have the test from before and the test from after.
And it sounds like it's not only obviously just about physical health, it's like how your
Everything.
reality is. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's internal and external. Being happy just because is a wild thing.
Wild. I have to ask you about your relationship with your kids because that
Sure.
was my favorite part of the show, honestly, was getting to see you as a parent and your relationship with your kids and how open and encouraging and honest and non-judgmental that you are as a parent. How has your relationships with your children influenced your understanding of love after coming from the background you did?
Well, loving my kids was not something I needed to learn at all, to be honest. Like, has been the guiding force of my life,
Mm.
simply stated. Nothing matters more than my children. Nothing. I will fight for them. I will die for them. I will live for them. I will build for them and create for them. Yesterday was Mother's Day,
Mhm.
and my kids all wrote me letters. Fridge, I'm gonna fly again. This is so ridiculous. Gosh, I'm
I
emotional
I'm
today.
crying right there with you.
I just sat in bed and cried and just looked up in the universe and said, thank you so much. I have the best kids on earth, and I'm so grateful to them. They're the ones who give me the courage and the strength. They're the ones that make me fight for what I believe in. I can't, I mean, they're my everything. They're just my everything.
You could really tell that. And a part of it that was really, I know, healing for a lot of people is the way that you encourage them to pursue relationships, their sexuality, and be so authentic in that. Because I think, even obviously, those of us who didn't even grow up in an Orthodox community, we still feel so suppressed, and there's still a box you're taught to fit into. And
Yeah.
so I think for a lot of people, watching a mother encourage her children to pursue whatever their authenticity is was really healing to watch. Like, you really did heal a lot of people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I was at a fashion event and I was with Batsheva. We walk in the room and there is this like 6 foot tall woman. I mean, fucking gorgeous. Like, if I went that direction, I was like, wow, like just
That's her, yeah.
that's her, right? Just insanely beautiful. And when we walk into the room, she runs over to us, total stranger, lifts me up. I mean, she was giant, and hugs me and bursts out crying. And my daughter Batsheva is like literally pulling, like, can you let my mother down, please? Like, put my mother down. And this woman shows us her back, and it is covered in cigarette butt. And she said that For the last 20 something years of her life, her husband had been physically abusing her, always in places that were covered. And she said, and I want you to know that the day I watched your show, I packed my shit and I walked out the door.
Oh my God, Julia. Is it such an interesting experience knowing how much people resonate with your experience, not even having gone through the
Because
Orthodox
it's all the
community?
same in the end.
It
Women
is.
outside of my community in 21st century here, I didn't realize that. They are still being put down every day. They are still being denigrated. They're still being told that they can't, that they have to wait their turn and be polite and ask permission and be demure. All this nonsense. All this nonsense. I mean, probably the craziest was I was eating lunch at the Lure Fish Bar here in New York City.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
yeah.
great restaurant. And we were outside, and across the street was a paper source. I don't know if it's still there. And I'm eating lunch, and a woman comes over to me, hands me a letter, and walks away. Says, I don't want to bother you. Just read this at your own leisure, and walks. Which means that she saw me at the restaurant, went across the street, bought a card, wrote something, and then, right? So, of course, I'm curious. I'm going to open this letter. So I open the letter, and this woman says that the day that my show came out was the same day that she had chosen to commit suicide. That she had written letters to all her friends telling them that it's not their fault and that they couldn't have known and not to feel bad. She had made a will that gave away all her things to different people. Her plan for her last day on earth was she was going to go to lunch with her best friend. She was going to watch something on TV. She was going to take all the sleeping pills that she had saved up, and she was going to die. And she's at lunch with her friend, and her friend tells her about this show that just came out that's about this woman who was going to commit suicide but chose life and da da in the community and da 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 da. She's like, well, this is perfect. I'm going to watch this. And she said in her letter, which I still have, obviously, she said, look, I didn't watch an episode. I watched your entire show. And by the end of your show, I said to myself, if she can choose life, I can choose life. And she's walking on this earth today because of the show.
Did you have any idea before even the show,
That
but
was the
just
hope. That
sharing
was the
your
reason I made the
story?
show. The reason I made the show, the reason I did the book was exactly for this purpose, because especially with modeling and seeing what these women were going through in this
Mm.
world in the 21st century drove me crazy. And I was like, no, I got to tell this story. So many women in one way or another, doesn't have to be as extreme as me. You're taught every day that you're less than. I see it every single day. And women are not less than. They have no idea what they're capable of because no one has ever told them that they are.
What do you hope that women listening who maybe are feeling like I'm not good enough to get a promotion, or I'm in a relationship that doesn't feel good to me, or I hate the way that my body looks, what do you want them to know?
The first step is choosing, giving yourself permission to say, I deserve more.
Mm.
To me, that is literally the hardest step because it's a hard thing to say out loud to yourself. The world I'm living in right now, my situation is not good, and I deserve more. We are taught we don't. We are taught we should be happy with what we have. We should be appreciative. We should be grateful. Stop complaining. Be polite. You have to give yourself permission to not be okay with it. You have to give yourself permission to say, I deserve more.
I think we all have this little whisper in us. Like, we have these beliefs that are like, you're not good enough,
That's
you're
it.
not ready, blah, blah, blah. But then there's this
Yeah.
little whisper that's like, oh, wait, there's more. And
Yeah.
that's what we got to listen to.
And the other thing I would say, and I tell this to people all the time, just start moving. Do something. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Just do the dumbest, smallest, littlest thing. Start. Because once you start, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get rejected. Shitty things are going to happen to you. That's part of it. But every time you overcome that, you feel stronger. And then the next time it's a little less difficult to overcome it. And then the next time it's even less difficult. And then you get to a place where you're like, damn, I've got this. I've got this. And then you start believing in yourself even more. The more you believe in yourself, the more success you have, and the more success you have, the more you believe in yourself. It's this delightful round robin of success. But you just got to put that first foot forward. I don't care what it is, writing a business plan, talking about it to somebody, starting an LLC, which could be done literally online now. Like you don't need a lawyer or anyone to do it. It's really easy. Take that first step and then take the second step and then the third step. And even if you don't know what the 50th step is going to be, it's okay. One step, little tiny increments. And all of a sudden you're going to look around yourself and you realize your whole life changed.
I love that advice because I think so often people are waiting till they feel ready or confident enough to do something, and that doesn't come. That doesn't
Never
happen. You have to
comes.
do the
Never
thing, and
comes.
then you
Just
feel
do it.
confident.
Yeah,
Yes.
just take that first step. People always say, "Oh, Julia, how do you walk in such high heels?" And my answer always is right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. One step at a time, people.
What a good metaphor for life. I mean,
Right?
it's so
It
true.
literally is. Right foot, left foot.
Julia, we're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Go for it.
First one, this is actually interesting knowing the conversation that we have. What's a belief you held 5 years ago that you've completely let go of now?
That I'm a victim.
It's a great answer and a great belief to let go of. A fact about you that people would be surprised by.
I'm kind of shy.
No, you're not.
I know. You see, nobody ever believes it, but except for like the people who go out with me. Like at work, I'm fierce, I'm fearless. No problem. Left to my own devices, like if it's a party that's not for business, I would sit in the corner. I have to go with friends who drag me out and introduce me to people. I'm really a homebody. Like my favorite night is in bed, in my pajamas, reading a really good book or watching TV. If I left to my own devices, I would probably never go out.
So you're shy in personal settings and friendships, dating, things like that. So
Yeah,
dating must be not fun.
I'm learning all sorts of really amazing things about myself and I'm getting stronger every day. And the beginning was really uncomfortable for me, like really uncomfortable. And like some things happen, which to you will sound so silly, but to me, they were like, wow, I could say no. Like that was a big realization. I get to say no. Usually a man asks, I have to try and figure out a way to say yes,
No, that's empowering.
which is really empowering. So I've gotten much better at it. I am much better at it now, but still, like my friends have to drag me. They do. They drag me. They're like, Julia, you're coming out. You are not getting into bed. You're coming out. They really do. And it's funny because I'm so forward facing. I'm so open about everything. But that's because it has a purpose, right? It's because
Yes,
I
it
want
makes
to change
sense.
the world. I want to create businesses. I want to establish a life for my family and my children. Like with purpose, I'm fearless. But when it comes to just like social things, I'm like, I know it's bizarre. I know.
No, it makes sense though. It is interesting. And I wonder because in that instance, the purpose is just for you, for your own
Yeah,
happiness.
that's the thing. When it's just for me, it's like, I could just stay home, right? Like
Right.
that's so I'm really working on that.
It sounds like the next limiting belief to work on.
I'm trying. I'm working on it. I am really trying. But it's a funny one. Like when it comes to something I believe in, I'm insanely open, right? I talk
Yeah.
about everything. I have no shame, no fear, no guilt, nothing. But when it comes to like just hanging out, it's like,
Have your kids given you advice on dating?
oh, all my advice is for my kids. I call Batsheva at least once a week. Batsheva, do you think da 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 da? And she will literally, she gives the best advice.
I bet she gives you great advice because she gives great advice to strangers on the
She gives the
internet. Like, she's
best dating
amazing.
advice ever. Like I had a situation the other day, I was dating someone and I found something out and I was like, am I making a big deal out of this or is this a big deal? Because I'm not really sure sometimes, to be
Yeah,
honest.
totally.
And so I called her and she's like, Ima, absolutely not. I was like, okay, that's it. Breaking up. Thank you very much. Because sometimes, I grew up around women. I grew
Mhm.
up with women, around women, understanding women. Guys are still a bit foreign to me. I'm super flirty, don't get me wrong. I'm not shy about my body at all, but I'm shy about relationships.
And are those a lot of ingrained beliefs? I mean, I can't even imagine
Oh,
growing up.
100%. Oh my God, no question. Right? Men were there to serve. Like I'm telling you, I meditate between 2 and 4 hours a day. There's still lots of things I want to change about my thoughts, my beliefs. The other day, someone said to me, like, "Oh, Julia, you're so unusual. There's never going to be someone who's going to be good enough." Something to that effect. And I thought to myself, a month ago, I would have believed that. I don't believe that anymore.
Because what a limiting feeling to be like, there's no
Yeah, to
one good
feel like
enough
you're
out
always going to
there.
be alone, right?
Right.
That's a lie. That's not true.
I mean, you hear that a lot, people saying there's no good guys, I've
That's right.
met
There's
everyone.
no good guys, Julia. Who are you going to like, Julia? Who is going to? All that's a lie. It's a lie.
Because when you believe that, then of course your
Yeah.
reality is gonna reflect
And
that.
then it was so amazing. I met someone, not for dating, just like a person who is both really brilliant and really kind. And I was like, you see, men like that do exist,
They do.
period. And that's all I needed. I just needed to know that it's there. The universe will bring me my person when it's my time. Till then, I'm
100%.
happy as a clam. But it's all of these things, these stories we tell ourselves over and over again. They're what bring us down. The most dangerous person to your life is you.
So much of what we think in our heads that we think is reality is actually just the way that we have spun and created reality, so we can change it.
That's it.
Best advice you've ever received?
Be happy.
Mm, I love that, and I think happiness is a choice. It's something that you
Oh,
practice.
oh,
Yeah.
you have to. Like with everything that was going on in my life, that's when I decided to be happy. It's a choice that you have to work on every day to have inner strength, inner joy, inner happiness, so that when the shit hit the fan, everyone's life, the shit hits the fan. Everybody has it. One way
Mm.
or another, maybe not as extreme as mine, but extreme in their own way. If you have a core of joy, it will go away and your life will be better. If I look now back at the last 3 years, and it's not just about how much money I've won or how much power, blah, blah, blah. What really I look back and think of is how much I've changed,
Ooh.
how much I've grown, that the person I am today is so different than the woman I was 3 years ago. I don't look at men now. I may still be a little shy sometimes, but I definitely do not look at men as superior to me.
Mm.
And for 52
Wow.
years of my life, I did.
Oh my god, that gives me chills. That in itself is like a shackle being let go.
Just huge. You have no idea
Ugh.
that moment where you feel like, holy shit, they're not better than me. Like they're just really not.
'Cause you can logically think anything, but there's, like, that subconscious in your brain that, like,
And
those
that
beliefs
subconscious that
are
tells you,
hard.
he knows
Yep,
better. They're
yep,
better. You're supposed to do what they say.
and it takes work and intentionality to
Oh my God.
get
It's the
rid of
hardest,
those.
I'm telling you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Changing, breaking those neural networks and patterns in your body is the hardest thing I've ever done. By
Mm.
far. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. And it's made me such a happier, better human being. But it is without doubt. I mean, I Humpty Dumptied myself.
That's a good thing to call
Literally.
it. Yeah, that's a good phrase for it.
Broke myself into pieces, put myself back together.
Well, you being able to do that is the example for other women to be like, "Whoa, I can do that too."
If I can overcome the beliefs of 50 something years of the most extreme patriarchal male focused beliefs on earth, so can anybody else.
Our last question always is a book that changed your life. I'm guessing is it Dr. Joe?
It is a Dr. Joe.
Which one was your favorite? Which one changed your life the most?
Oh gosh, that's a real becoming supernatural probably.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
And also Esther Hicks' book, Ask and It Is Given. I would say supernatural first, ask it is given second, and then do the course, do the online course. I promise you will change your life. I promise. I'm telling you now. Trust me on this one, guys.
You have talked me into it. I've been like, "Oh, I wanna
You
do the
have to do
course."
it. You
You've
have to do it.
100% talked me into it.
The book is wonderful, but the course teaches you the how, the breathing. It teaches you self mastery. And then you're going to see once you do the course, you're going to want to go to one of the retreats. I've done 4, my kids have done 2. Every time I leave a retreat, I'm on such a high. And every single time, something miraculous happened to my life. The first retreat, in the middle of my retreat, and it wasn't even supposed to happen that day, the date got moved, was the first arrest warrant against my husband.
No way.
Every single retreat, something crazy has happened to my life. Crazy, like out of the blue crazy.
That's
I can't,
insane.
insane. I mean, really nuts. Just things that don't make sense, that are just miraculous. But first, I don't need to, believe me, I don't need to convince you to do the retreat. All you need to do is the online course. Because once you do the online course, you're just going to want to go to a retreat.
You're going to want to go,
Because
yeah.
it's 2,500 people meditating for 7 hours a day. The energy of the room is so palpable. It's so powerful. You're shaking with it. It's crazy. I've seen people in wheelchairs walk. I mean, I've seen crazy shit. It is such a game changer to every aspect in your life. I cannot more strong. You know me, I'm a tough cookie. I fight for everything. I love to work. This makes everything better. Everything. Everything better.
And I think right now, especially, we all really need the reminder that we can control our lives.
We need to learn how to be creators instead of victims. And that, in the end, is what Dr. Joe teaches you.
Mic drop to that, Julie. I mean, my God. Where can everybody find you and get your book?
Book is Brazen by Julia Hart. It's anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And my TV show is My Unorthodox Life on Netflix. On Instagram, I'm Julia Hart. I have an amazing shapewear brand, which I know we didn't get to talk about, but it
I
is
know.
insane. Like, people are literally, I mean, it is crazy. We kind of accidentally made up a material. I'm going to be honest, like, I didn't do it on purpose, but it is the most insanely comfortable material I've ever put on my body. I almost wear it every single day. We've got t-shirts and tank tops coming up where the bra is built inside. It's amazing.
That is
So
genius.
it's Body by Julia. It's not really shapewear. It's clothing that is a little bit shaping.
So there's a
but
really
it's got-
cute dresses, really cute stuff. Yeah, it's not just shapewear.
It's an amazing thing.
clothes.
And in a few weeks, it's only delayed because of all the tariffs, so we couldn't actually get it here. But there's t-shirts, tank tops, bodysuits that you wear as clothing with the bra built inside. So you not only buy it by your dress size, you buy it by your cup size. So you could have a size medium double D cup or a size medium B cup. We go all the way up to extra, extra, extra large, and we go all the way up to an F cup. So no more bras, people. Your clothes have the bra built inside, so there's no hook, there's no snap, there's no pain, there's no discomfort. In November, we're going to be introducing shapewear swimwear. It looks like swimwear, it feels like swimwear, except it
Shut
holds
up.
you in place. If you see it, it's so crazy. You'd never know it wasn't swimwear, except it sucks your butt up. Imagine like Halle Berry, what's the name of that, the detective guy, James Bond. Halle
Yeah,
Berry in
yeah.
that James Bond movie with the boy shorts. So imagine boy shorts that suck you up, make yourself this little beautiful little butt, and a tankini top that has a bra so it lifts you and holds you in place and then smooths all the little things. It looks incredible. It feels unbelievable. So we're going to be launching that in November, plus athleisure. So your workout clothes are going to make you look fabulous. So when you go to the gym to meet a guy or a girl, you can really look good. And then next year in March, we are dropping a bridal line where your bra and your shapewear is built into your wedding gown.
Okay, I'm also getting married in 2026. So that is just
Oh
like
my God.
kismet.
Oh my God, I need to design your dress for you separately, though.
Please, please.
Oh my God, how
Okay,
fun.
deal. You're going to change my life. Everything you just
No,
said, I'm
it's
like, I need
huge.
that.
It's huge. It's such a game changer because you feel comfortable. Why is it that women are okay with being uncomfortable all day?
We should be able to be comfortable and look fucking
And look
phenomenal.
fabulous.
Yes.
Exactly. We should be comfortable and look fabulous.
Julia, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed and I'm sold. I love it.
So bodybyjulia.com.
Bodybyjulia.com. Amazing. This seriously blew me away. This was like above and beyond my expectations.
Thanks.
You like fulfilled a dream of mine to meet you and talk to you. So thank you
Oh,
so
thank you.
much.
You are amazing. I hope to get to meet you like in person soon.
I
think
know.
you're an extraordinary person. Like if you come to New York, let me know. And when I come to LA, I'll let you know. But I
Please.
really love to get to know you.
That'd be amazing. Let's stay in touch. I'll definitely let you know
Okay.
in New York and
Yeah.
next time we're in LA.
I'll ask Brittany to give you my personal cell.
Julia, thank you so much. You're the best. I love you so much.
I love you too.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at The Evergirl Podcast on Instagram or theevergirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.